Welcome in, McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. We did not think that this college football coaching carousel cycle tidal wave could get more crazy than it has been already. Until yesterday afternoon, we find out that Sherrone Moore is going to be fired as the Michigan head coach. Greg, our 29th head coaching change since spring practice ended in college football. 29. And you think about if someone would have handed you a list before the season, if you and I would have gone on the air and I said, "Hey, I'm going to drop this on you real quick." Florida, LSU, Auburn, Penn State, Michigan, Virginia Tech, Stanford, Ole Miss, Arkansas, UCLA, Cal, Kentucky, Michigan State, Iowa State are all going to be open. What would your response have been?
I'd probably have a pretty good laugh about it. What's funny is that now you said 29, correct? Which is over 21.
By my count since spring, 29 positions have come open.
That's over 21% of the coaching jobs available here at the FBS level, which means if a sitting head coach takes another job, that's 30. That means you got to backfill another one that's 30, that's 31, which means you got to backfill potentially another one that's 32.
And then those new coaches going other places are going to have staff members.
Yeah.
That could easily be a head coach at a different school. I think I see where you're going. This could climb to 35, 36 in a heartbeat.
And we're not even through the playoffs yet. I mean, there's no telling. I mean,
we haven't started the playoffs.
We haven't even started the playoffs. So I think it's kind of a sign of the times. I think it's a result of a few factors. One, everyone thinks the 12-team playoff should be a birthright, and it's not. Two, this year in particular, you're able to front load a lot of your NIL deals. So the expectations for some of these schools were higher because their rosters were more expensive, and those that contributed to those rosters being expensive expect a return on investment. And I think three, last year was a fairly quiet year. So it's now overcorrected in the other direction. So I think those are the three things. I mean, if you don't make the playoff, you're an awful coach. Of course, if according to some, if you have expectations on your roster and you underperform, you don't even have a chance. And then a lot of people were extended last year that probably should have been cut. Like, for example, Sam Pittman at Arkansas. Should he really have been here this year? Probably not. Mike Gundy at Oklahoma State. Should he have gone into 25 as the head coach? Probably not. Handful of others that you could probably point to and make the exact same case, Brent Pry being one of them. So you look at it, I think last year was a quiet year, and now things have kind of gone back in the other direction. But the Michigan saga is completely unique, and one that is unfortunate. It's a troubling story. It's gotten more troubling in the last 24 hours, and it's not something that any of us could have anticipated.
Yeah, we talk about the coaching changes portion of this, and Sherrone Moore leaving, and one of the headliner jobs in college football now being open. The other side of that is how, like you said, troubling this story really is. And Sherrone Moore apparently right now in police custody, and due to some of the reports, having an affair with a staffer, and apparently there were some threats made, not only to her, but himself, after some things were found out. There's a lot of things that I've heard about this. I'm not going to repeat right now because don't think that some of those have been reported. But what is alleged that took place that led to him being in police custody is scary. You never know what people are going through. You never know what's happening with folks. And that is by no means an excuse of what he did to his family or what he or she decided to do individually. But what it turned into, apparently before he went into police custody, is terrifying. And I've met Sherrone Moore. I've been around Sherrone Moore. I've talked to Sherrone Moore a lot. More so before he became the head coach at Michigan. But we had shared texts since he's been the head coach. Because obviously, he was offensive line coach when we took the Joe Moore Award there. twice and spent a lot of time on the phone with him talking about different things. I would have never expected anything along these lines. One of the more down to earth guys that you've met. And see some of those stories coming out of how this thing ended last night, Greg. It is it's beyond wild, man. It's unbelievable, to be honest with you.
Yeah, it's awful. I don't really know how to describe it. I just think about his wife and three daughters, and it's just terrible. I mean, I don't really know. I don't really know what else to say. I don't know him. I've never met him. Never been around him. Never been in the same room as him. I know nothing about Sherrone Moore. Nothing more about Sherrone Moore than anyone else that's watched Michigan play over the last few years. My only experience with him is in a professional setting like that and just covering his team, but never actually been face to face with the guy. It's just a very troubling situation, and one in which all I can really think about is his wife and three daughters. I really haven't thought about much
Absolutely.
else.
Yes, and it's you hate what they're having to go through. That's the worst part about situations like this with the families that were innocent in everything and have to sit there and watch it and deal with it, and it's not going to be easy for them for a long time. Hate that for them. That has shifted something else in the world of college football that you and I had to discuss about a week ago, I believe, that Kalen DeBoer, it felt like almost chose to go out and discuss. I actually heard him in an interview this week say that he was relieved when the reporter did finally ask him about the Penn State job so he could put it to rest and he could say, yeah, no, not going to happen. I want to preface this by saying one thing. We talk about odds to be the next head coach at places very often here. I would say very often also the person who is usually the favorite out of the gate is not the one who ends up becoming the head coach. John Summerall was not the favorite to be Auburn's next head coach. Then he was for a while, and neither who started nor finished as the favorite to be the next Auburn head coach ended up being the next head coach. However, Greg, multiple sports books now have Kalen DeBoer as the favorite to be the next Michigan head coach. I personally don't think that's real. I don't think you think that's real. I know a lot of people don't, but he's 4-1 to be the next Michigan head coach. Jesse Minter, Joe Brady, Jed Fish, Jeff Brom, Kenny Dillingham, Lincoln Riley would all be less than 10-1 to get the job. And then it starts to get a little bit silly. Not so much Dan Mullen at 10-1, but Marcus Freeman would be next. Pete Kwiatkowski, PJ Fleck, Dan Lanning, Josh Heupel, Manny Diaz, all the way down to Brian Kelly at 25-1. So I don't think it means much, but Vegas also doesn't usually put names up there for absolutely no reason whatsoever. And Kalen DeBoer is currently the betting favorite to be the next Michigan head coach.
Yeah, and I understand why Michigan would go after him. Why wouldn't you? I mean, I would go after the best coaches I could possibly engage in conversation with. I mean, what kind of program are you running if you don't try to go after and get the best? I think it's amazing to me, though, that the guy that many people here don't love is clearly, in the eyes of those that are very knowledgeable about running a program, in the eyes of those that are very knowledgeable about putting players in position to succeed, is the number one candidate at many institutions. Take that into account for a second. This guy is highly desirable everywhere, and yet some people here still don't think he's the right man for the job. That's insane to me. People that know more than you want him. That to me is amazing. So here's what I would say about it. I think Kalen DeBoer is the ultimate competitor. Like, insane competitor. Like, to the point in which this guy played Indie League baseball because he just wanted to compete before he got into coaching and knew he just had to do something in a competitive field. And I think Kalen DeBoer does care about the optics and legacy for sure. Michigan's a great job. No one's denying that. It's a great, great, great job. And one that in the Big Ten, if you just win one or two games a year, you're in great shape to make the college football playoff. So it's a great spot. However, I think the optics of him leaving Alabama would lead people to believe he was running away from the challenge, And I think that is ultimately what would kill him. Like, he wants to get it right here. So if he took it, I'd be shocked. I would. But I don't blame them for trying at all. I would try too if I were them, because I think Kalen DeBoer is one of the top 5 coaches in America with what he brings week in and week out to giving his team an advantage and in roster management and talent development and all these other things. So I think Kalen DeBoer is amazing, so I don't blame him at all for trying.
Well, especially with where the timeline is on this situation. What are your real options here if you're Michigan? I understand that the cycle technically is not over, but it also feels like a lot of the heavy lifting's done in this coaching cycle. Most coaches have made their decisions. Most coaches have landed somewhere. A lot of contracts have been signed. Some have not. That's always something that you need to kind of be aware of and understand and remember.
Yeah.
That just because a coach is in place or has a nameplate on his desk at the new school doesn't always mean that the ink is even not so much dry, but is even on the contract yet. That's something that you may hear coming up in the next few weeks. But we're in a pretty weird time in this cycle right now. So if Michigan thought they could throw a Hail Mary and land, as you referenced, the top 5 coach in college football, I have no doubt that they would go after that and try to make that happen. It's going to make it more difficult for it to happen, I think, where the timeline is right now, and because of where that particular head coach is. He's still at Alabama. The people who talk about him getting out or going somewhere or going to do something else, I think they forget the fact that he's the head coach at Alabama. And while a lot of people want to point to the pressure or it's unfair or the expectations, flip that around and think about everything that comes with being the head coach at Alabama and the benefits that you get in recruiting and the benefits that you get from facilities and support. And you have a great athletic director. You have an incredible staff, strength, medical training, all that. Sometimes we start talking about these guys leaving, Greg, and we forget about the benefits of where they are.
Yeah.
And the only thing we think about is, well, he's probably tired of people saying that he should win national championships. Well, there's also a lot of good that come with those jobs that people just forget to mention a lot of times as to why they might not leave that current situation.
And this applies to about the 1% club here. Kalen DeBoer is probably not built like the people that are citing the difficulties that come along with being the head coach at Alabama. He's not built like that. He's not built like you. He's not built like me. Do I think Alabama would be a really hard job? Yeah. Would quality of life factor in? Yeah. Why am I not a coach? Because I value quality of life. And being a coach is you have to sacrifice that from time to time. Yeah, you can get rich. Awesome. I'll try to go make money doing something that I truly enjoy, and I don't want to just die every night because I can't get my team to block an A gap with a double team between my center and guard. Like, that to me is a very tough spot to be in. But these guys that take these jobs, they're not built like the average man. They don't want the path of least resistance. If you do, it's the wrong guy. And I think a lot of the people that are citing, well, it's a hard job. It's so hard. You can't follow the GOAT. Why not? Why not? That's my whole thing. Why not? There are some people that are cut for it, that are cut from a different cloth, that excel under the pressure, that love the grind, that want the challenge, that don't turn away from the hurdle that's sitting in front of them of hopefully at some point getting your team to within striking distance of a national championship. Like, there are some people that are scared of that. They're scared of failure. But the ones you want running your program, they embrace that. They love that. They thrive in that setting. I frankly believe Kalen DeBoer is the latter. In my experiences around him, I think he's a killer. And you might think he's a nice guy, and you might think he's this, and you might think he's that. You don't know him. Have you been around him? I feel like I know him pretty well, and I don't even know what type of drive he has internally. So I just think a lot of the people are like, oh, it's just a hard job. Oh, I don't know why you want it. It's too hard. Well, that's why you're not the head coach at Alabama. And it's a different person. Like, why do people want to be the president of the United States? I don't want that job. I wouldn't want that job to save my life. That'd be the worst job ever. The pressure, the experience, and yet Guess what? Every 4 years, there's 30 people up there on that stage in the Democratic and the Republican primary trying to get that job. Why? Because they want it. They want that pressure. They want that. They want that challenge. They want that difficulty. So there's some people that are just cut out for the grind. Meanwhile, the normal people, you, me, several others, everyone listening, I don't know if it's that advantageous. I don't know if it's that appealing. But guess what? People keep signing up for it. And I happen to think Kalen DeBoer's a rare one. So if he goes, I'd be disappointed. Because I got to be honest with you, I don't think you can get better than him. I really don't. And I think I'd be very, very disappointed as an Alabama fan if he left. Very disappointed. It'd be crushing, frankly, because I think you're going down with whoever you bring in next.
Yep, and we talk about it a lot. I don't know how many times we have to tell people that these coaches think differently. That they don't think about the impossibilities that come with the job because they believe what they do works. That's why they're where they are. They believe their system works. They believe that their assistants around them work. They believe that their philosophies work. Their motivational tactics work. It's why they're where they are. If they didn't think that those things worked, they wouldn't be a head coach anywhere, much less Alabama or any other massive school, and have had success at multiple other schools. That wouldn't be the case. It would not be real. All right, so coming up today on the show, we've got Isaiah Hull at 8:20. He covers Michigan. He'll be with us to make a little bit of sense of this and try to give us any sort of idea where they may attempt to go next, because the timing of this is not great for the Michigan Wolverines football program to be able to go out and try to find a new head coach. It's not going to be easy for them to be able to do that. So we'll talk to Isaiah about that. Taylor Hicks is going to be in studio at 9 a.m. Greg's in studio. I'm in Charlotte. SEC schedule release show tonight. So tomorrow morning, we will wake up and react with all of the schedules from the Southeastern Conference teams and break those down for you, what they're going to look like next year. The only thing that I will say, Greg, is the Missouris and the Ole Misses of the last couple of years, say goodbye to those.
Yeah.
The walking around, pointing and laughing at certain schedules in the league because they are so much different from the perspective of being easier than others, probably not going to have that anymore.
Probably not, and probably shouldn't, right? If we're really looking at this, it probably shouldn't be that way. You should not have the hardest strength of schedule in college football this year was who? Florida, correct? They were number one in strength of schedule. For you to be in the same league, the same conference, the same everything, with the number one toughest strength of schedule, and then on the flip side, you're having to play against having to go against teams, and you played them head to head, so you had your chance at them, and you couldn't land it. Excuse me, Florida has now fallen to 2. Wisconsin is 1. Beside the point. But for you to have Florida sitting at number 2 in college football, and for Ole Miss, who had the weakest schedule in the SEC at 40, it's a 38-spot gap in a 16-team league. That's absurd. But it's even more pronounced in other leagues. And the funny thing is that the Big Ten has already been playing 9 games. You have a team in Nebraska who sits at 51 against a team in Wisconsin that's at 1. Like, we can't have gaps that are that significant when it comes to strength of schedule, because we're never going to really understand what these teams are all about. If you got to run the gauntlet and you're playing the best teams, going against a team like going against a schedule where you're running the gauntlet's ridiculous. Like, Alabama to be 6th in strength of schedule and to be in the playoff is remarkable. If you look at the other teams that are that high in strength of schedule, the only one that's close is Texas. They're at 7. Everyone else that's in the playoff is a way on down there. Oklahoma's at 12. A&M's at 16. Georgia's at 18. Oregon's at 19. I mean, it's hard to make the playoff in and of itself, but you look at the strength of schedule, man, it's brutal. So everybody should play more. That's why I think the 9-game schedule will help with this as far as parity in the league.
Texas's strength of schedule is currently 7 in all of college football.
Yes.
Remember when everybody said that they were getting all these breaks?
This year they didn't.
Yeah. Well, I'll just that might not be changing either. So we'll have that tonight. We'll react to it tomorrow morning. A lot more coming up on the show today. Want to start getting into some of these college football playoff matchups. I'll give you a quick review of some of the coaching hires that have taken place since Sherrone Moore's out as the Michigan head coach. Who's in at different places. We'll talk to you about that. And don't forget that cold weather is here. Don't get caught in it. Schedule your system checkup now from a Train comfort specialist. Train has been recognized 11 consecutive years as America's most trusted HVAC brand and our exclusive home comfort partner here at Jocks. Visit train.com to find a comfort specialist near you. We update you on college football coaching hires next, right here on Jocks. Welcome back in. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. Appreciate you being with us. 800 239 9569 if you want to get in on Sherrone Moore being out at Michigan. It's actually 30, Greg. 30 coaching positions have opened up since the spring. 26 of those are filled. I will quickly run down those for you now to give you your update for college football head coaches in new places. Ready? You ready for this?
Yes.
Here we go. Kent State took the interim tag off Mark Carney. Virginia Tech hired James Franklin. Keep in mind, he was fired from Penn State, so that's an opening. Oklahoma State hires Eric Morris from North Texas, so then North Texas is open. Colorado State hired Jim Moore from UConn, so then UConn was open. Oregon State hired Jamarcus Shepard from Alabama. Stanford hired Washington Commanders quarterback coach Tavita Pritchard. Arkansas hired Memphis coach Ryan Silverfield. Now, Memphis was open. Auburn hired South Florida head coach Alex Golesh. USF was open. Florida hired Tulane coach John Summerall. Tulane open, now filled. LSU hired Ole Miss coach Lane Kiffin. Ole Miss then hired Pete Golding, their defensive coordinator. Michigan State hired former Northwestern head coach Pat Fitzgerald. Kentucky hired Oregon offensive coordinator Will Stein. North Texas went and hired former West Virginia and Troy head coach Neil Brown. South Florida hired Ohio State offensive coordinator and wide receiver coach Brian Hartline. UAB removed the interim tag from Alex Mortensen. Kansas State hired Texas A&M offensive coordinator Colin Klein. Cal hired Oregon defensive coordinator Tosh Lupoy. Penn State hired Iowa State head coach Matt Campbell. So then Iowa State was open. Iowa State hired Washington State head coach Jimmy Rogers. UConn hired Toledo head coach Jason Campbell. So Toledo's now open. UCLA hired James Madison head coach Bob Chesney. So James Madison was open. They went and hired former Florida head coach Billy Napier. Memphis hired Southern Miss head coach Charles Huff. So Southern Miss now open. Tulane hired its pass game coordinator, former Southern Miss head coach Will Hall. Toledo hired Mercer head coach Mike Jacobs. And now Michigan's open as well. So there you go. Those are your coaching hires.
What's crazy about it?
Just this offseason. Well, this season and offseason.
What's crazy about it is just the marquee jobs. Like, how many of those jobs, when you go through them, how many of those jobs would you consider very attractive?
I would say one,
One?
2, 3,
I was
4,
going to say, well,
5.
Hang on a second.
Get down 6. At least 6, if not more.
At least 6. At least. I think Michigan State's very attractive. I think Penn State's very attractive. I think at the
Auburn, Florida, LSU, Ole Miss.
Auburn, Florida, LSU, Ole Miss. So now we're at 7. Auburn. Yeah, no, that's 6. I'm sorry. I think in a weird way, even though people here don't see it that way, Oklahoma State's very attractive.
Did you say Virginia Tech?
I am TBD on Virginia Tech.
Okay.
I think Virginia Tech's a good job. I just don't know.
I do think there's like a kind of a tier 2 of could maybe should be very attractive, but for the right reasons. And I would put like Kansas State, Iowa State. I have Oklahoma State there. You don't. Virginia Tech could be one or the other. I think Kentucky is in that category. Like, could be really good, could be really attractive, but some things have to fall into place for it to be there. So, like, did you see, by the way, like UConn, for example, not a job that a lot of us look at and say very attractive. Jason Candle's making more than double that he did in the MAC at UConn.
UConn's got bread.
It's wild to think about, because none of us look at UConn and say, well, that's. I think most people walking around the street, if you said, hey, if you could take an upper tier MAC job and compete for conference titles every year, or UConn, which one would you take? I don't think they would definitively say UConn.
Yeah. I don't know. Big athletic department, dude. Like, that's the thing it's a big athletic department, great hoops, make a ton of money from their Big East deal. Like that. I think UConn's probably a little more attractive than you realize. Of course, being independent in college football is hard from a scheduling standpoint. But, yeah, I can see why it's probably a little more attractive.
I'll give you a couple others that fall into that second-tier category of, if the right things go the right way, should be considered very attractive. James Madison.
James Madison's very attractive.
Memphis. You got alignment. You got people on board.
I think it's fine. I mean, it's G5.
I'm not putting it up there with Florida and LSU.
If you think it's better than the Florida job, just tell me. It's fine. Like, I'm not going to fight you on it.
Probably not going there. Tulane I would also put there as
better job, Tulane or Memphis?
Ooh.
It's close.
It is. I think I'm going to go Tulane.
I go Memphis, but it's not by much. It's close.
Yeah, no, it's and honestly, I feel like I have great information on both, because I feel like I'm pretty good friends with Ryan Silverfield and John Summerall, and I've heard them compliment those programs and some of the things happening at those programs. I mean, John Summerall raves about what the people behind the scenes at Tulane have done for him and how they've tried to make things better, going out of their way to try to make things better. Like there is real support there from the like. There's people who want to find out what anything they can do to help you win.
Yeah.
So it's not pulling teeth like it is at a lot of other places, and that's one of the reasons I might put Tulane there. I mean, you got great talent surrounding both of them. You obviously have Fred Smith at Memphis, who's going to step up and write you big checks when things are needed. That's going to help a lot. But I think I might just barely slide Tulane ahead. And when you look at Memphis, like these Liberty Bowl renovations, when those are done, that thing's going to be awesome.
100%.
So that'll help them a lot as far as that program's concerned. So yeah, they're the elite of the elite jobs, multiple. Then there are some really good P5 jobs. Then there's some excellent group of 5 jobs that have been open. I mean, this is the most banana cycle that we've ever seen, and that also led to, by the way, Kurt Signetti, Mike Elko, Clark Lee, Rhett Lashley, Eli Drinkwitz, Matt Rule, and Brent Key all getting extensions.
Yeah. I'm trying
just
to
an
think.
Incredible cycle, man.
Yeah, it's one of the best cycles ever. I'm trying to think. If you look at guys that have been extended, if you will, like one, are their extensions prohibitive, right? So in the event in which the cycle went a little further, I think Brent is making 6.5 at Georgia Tech. I don't think Brent's a real candidate at Michigan, right? But I'm just saying, like, I just wonder, because these guys have now signed extensions at certain places, Clark Lee at Vanderbilt, Jeff Brom at Louisville, Mike Elko at Texas A&M, who I don't think is going anywhere, by the way. I don't think any of these people are going anywhere. I wonder, when you sign an extension, is it all of a sudden you're off the table for the future? Like, for sure, next year, the following year, the year after that, whenever that may be. Like, once you're in, are you in? Or is that purely just a short period burst where it feels like things are stable?
I think it depends who wants you.
Yeah.
I mean, can they come in there and afford the buyout? Number one, are they willing to pay the buyout? And then I guess what the new structure of your new deal looks like. I think that's what they want. I mean, how long have we heard it, Greg? That this is for recruiting. This is for recruiting. I need that for recruiting, which I think that's a convenient reason, but it's also for multiple people to get paid more.
Right.
The commitment part of it is nice, and I guess in recruiting that helps, and you're not able to be recruited against as much. But I thought you brought up a great point there. Like, how many of these guys were really on the table? I don't know if Kurt Signetti was on the table, but I know he for sure was going to be. I mean, you don't think that every one of these jobs that has opened up, if any of those ADs thought for 1 second that Indiana didn't have him locked up, they weren't going to at least investigate that? 100% they would. All of them. Every single one of those jobs.
1,000,000%.
I don't think Elko was seeking other employment, but I do think that they thought he was going to come after him. And, like, I'll give Clint, his agent, credit. Like, they went in on the front end and said, we're not trying to get rich now. Let's get in there and get it right. Let us prove ourselves, and then we'll start talking about, like, a real SEC contract. And that's what they did, and then that's what A&M did. So, like, that has been a contract that worked out according to plan really for both sides. Like, that's kind of the way it's supposed to go. And there were some other SEC schools that had opportunities to operate that way, and they decided not to this cycle.
Yeah.
I think Clark Lee was a real candidate at multiple jobs. I think Eli Drinkwitz was a real candidate at multiple jobs. I think Brent Key was a real candidate at multiple jobs. You're going to have to help me. I mean, I think Rhett's name was being thrown around. Actually, I know Rhett was a candidate, not from him, but from at least one school was vetting him. But you're going to have to help me with Matt Rule. I don't know what his situation was. I don't know how real it was that people were looking for him, or he maybe wanted to go somewhere else. That's the one in that whole group that I don't really know what was happening behind the scenes.
I always think that regardless of what transpires in extensions, like, you feel safe in the moment doesn't mean that you're safe. You know what I mean? So, for example, if Michigan calls Rhett Lashley, is that Like, is the new extension that he signed prohibitive? I don't know. I really don't know the answer to this. But just kind of talking out loud about how this all works and what could go down. Because Michigan, let's be real, man. I think Michigan's a highly appealing job. Now, everyone talking about, oh, we got Larry Ellison writing checks. Not in the rev share era, guys. Like, it's not what it was. It's not the Wild West. Currently, the whole College Sports Commission, the CSC, is becoming very, very, very well staffed, much more so than a year ago. They're hiring people like crazy, and these things are actually going through arbitration now. These deals are actually going through arbitration, and they are being challenged. So the days of hey, billionaire writing a big old check, those are done. Like, it has to be authentic NIL. And I think Michigan is one of the few places where you can have authentic NIL because the brand transcends, and the starting quarterback at Michigan will find ample opportunities. And before this past cycle, if it was in before June 30th, you could front load deals. So these rosters in some cases are upwards of 30, 35, $40 million. That's not the case going forward. So you're going to have to rely heavily on brand value. Because let's be real, they're not putting the quarterback on Coastal Carolina in the Wheaties commercial. You know, they're not, that you're going to have to be a big time guy, and the big brands will have massive advantages there. So it's going to go back to being a little bit like it was back in the day when the brand really does carry weight because everyone can spend the same amount on players. So I think Michigan's highly attractive. And if you're looking at, quote, real NIL, it becomes even more attractive with where it goes going forward. But they're one of the 5 to 10 jobs that can create real authentic NIL for their players because their brand is significant nationwide.
Well, you're more confident than I am that that's going to just kind of shift to that and be that, you know.
I think the CSC is no joke, dude. I know deals that are going through arbitration right now, and they are not messing around, and they're not even where they need to be yet. Like, they're going to get there. It's only a matter of time, and all the commissioners, all the leagues are behind it because it's the only way of curbing the behavior right now, where people can just write blank checks.
We'll see how it goes. We'll see where it ends up. It's going to be interesting because I feel like you got a lot of schools out there that are still just kind of doing what they want to a certain extent. And we haven't really seen that governing power be put to the task yet. So I don't think people are scared of it. So I don't know. We'll see how it plays out. We'll see where it goes. A lot more to get to. Your feedback as well, just on Sherrone Moore being out at Michigan, some of these coaching vacancies that are open. Also, some other coaching news I mentioned when we ran through them all. Billy Napier introduced yesterday as the new JMU head coach. Georgia Tech has a very interesting offensive coordinator interview that has taken place. I'll share that with you, and we'll continue talking college football coaches and begin to get into the college football playoff matchups. We'll do that more next right here on Jocks. All right, welcome back in. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. Appreciate you guys tuning in. 800 239 9569. You want to get in. Ole Miss is going to open up the 2026 season against Louisville in Nashville. So another SEC school going to open up the season at a neutral site where, remember a couple months ago, a lot of people got mad at Auburn and John Cohen for moving that game to Atlanta, Greg, including the mayor of Auburn. So I don't know if the mayor of Oxford has lashed out via Twitter yet at the Ole Miss football program for bailing on him. But obviously, there'll be a pretty big check coming to them to be able to do that.
But just a reminder, that check cannot go exclusively into players NIL. Everyone is, that's a bit of a misconception. So it'll go towards the athletic department, but it would not get through the clearinghouse. So there's reasons for doing these things, and it's financially beneficial to do these things. That you can't cite, oh, well, it's going all to the
Auburn also hiring Coleman Holzer, former Mississippi State defensive coordinator, as recently as last year. He'll be the edge defenders coach, a really good recruiter, high energy guy. I actually thought he did a good job with State's defense. I know what the numbers were, but I also know what they were working with. And I watched how they operated, how hard they played. He would do it in certain ways. I mean, I've been a great recruiter for Alex Golish on his.
improve drastically year over year. And I think that there's always something to be said about that. Now, I don't think he's necessarily, Bill Belichick defensively, but I don't think he needs to be. I think just if you look at the buy-in from the players, dude, they played hard. Sometimes when I watch defense, like, all right, scheme, whatnot, how hard do they play? And when you watch Mississippi State this year, they might not always be in the right spot. They might give up some big plays. They might be limited from a personnel standpoint, but how hard did they play? And if you watch how hard they played, clearly they liked Hutzler. Clearly they played their tail off for him, and it showed. Did it not?
Yes. I mean, I think he did a great job, like you said. And, I know he's a little down about the Mississippi State situation, but it's like, how this goes, Greg. You got to satisfy the fan base and certain people behind the scenes somehow, some way. And unfortunately, sometimes that means people losing their job.
Yep.
Because that looks like you're, quote, doing something about it. And I think if most people who are educated on football went back 3 years ago and watched that defense and then watched them last year and then watched them this year, they would say, oh, no, that thing's heading in the right direction. By the way, Zach Arnett back in as defensive coordinator at State. What are your thoughts on that one?
I mean, I like Zach Arnett. I always have.
Well, I love him.
Unfit to be the head coach under the circumstances when he was there, but I think he can coach. So I'm
the first thing I thought of, Greg, when I saw that move is I was like, you talk about roster stress? That defense and that offense? Okay.
What do you mean roster stress?
Well, you have two units that are going to stress your personnel because you're going to go hyper fast and you're going to be hyper aggressive on defense. Like, to me, that doesn't always mix very well because we talk about defenses getting gassed when you go fast and they're on the field and they got to get back on the field quickly. They don't get much of a break. Well, then you're putting your defense out there and you're blitzing on 98.9% of your plays. I feel like when I first saw the move, I was like, woo, that will stress your roster out right there. So yeah, good luck with it. There'll be a lot
of snaps played for sure.
I mean, there might be a lot of snaps missed on that roster in the coming days. Might need to head over to Game Day Men's Health. If you're lacking sleep, if you're lacking energy, feeling on edge, Game Day Men's Health wants to help you today. They can do that by you going to GameDayMen'sHealth.com. Sign up for the free consultation today. It's easy. Offices in Trustville, Vestavia, Auburn, Tuscaloosa. Just go to GameDayMen'sHealth.com. You can find out where they are. They want to help you feel better. Weight loss programs, peptides in stock now. They want to get you back to being your normal self. Save 10% on any service they offer by mentioning Mac and Cube when you walk in the front door. Get all the facts at GameDayMen'sHealth.com. Locker room environment, holistic approach to health and wellness, minimal upfront cost for the programs they offer. Book that consultation today at GameDayMen'sHealth.com. It looks like Jay Bateman is also going to be leaving Texas A&M to become Kentucky's new defensive coordinator. I like Jay Bateman. He's fun. He's a fun dude. Been around the league, knows things well. So that's two coordinators that Mike Elko now has to replace.
Yep.
That's going to be tough for him in the middle of a playoff run. Not that part of it's going to be that difficult. They'll know how to manage that. But those are two big hires now that he's going to have in front of him after that extension we discussed earlier.
Yeah, and the other thing about Bateman, he wasn't having to call the plays, I mean, so I think he's a good coach. I've been around him covered him at North Carolina. I got to know him a little even before that. But man, he probably wants to run his own show, and I get that completely. So a lot of respect for how he handles things, and a lot of respect for what he does. But I think it's probably a good move for him now. He kind of gets to go run a show and do his thing. And you would imagine Stein will probably let him be the head coach of the defense, the way he's probably going to organize that thing.
Yep. No, it's I think Will Stein would appear to be one of those coaches that you look at and he's like, all right, handle the defense. I'll be over here. You got that. And probably the way that most would expect it to go with a lot of these coaches that have been hired. I don't think Alex Golesh is going to be totally different than that. And it's where your background is, where you're going to spend most of your time. It's kind of normal.
Why wouldn't you? That's what got you the job. Lean in.
And that's what we always say is you're there because of this, so lean on that and make the most of it. So, but there are a lot of assistant hires that are going down as well that we need to continue to discuss, that we need to continue to get to. I look at some of these hires as interesting. I look at some of them by necessity, and some of the assistant hires stick out because I haven't seen these guys. It's weird how some make perfect sense because you know their tree, you know their background, and then there's some that I see, Greg, and I'm like, I didn't even know those two knew each other. How did they end up there?
Yeah, well, there's a million of those. But it's amazing how influential the agents are when it comes to determining who goes where. They basically make suggestions to guys that are head coach for the first time. Hey, you should take a look at this guy. Hey, do this. Hey, this guy does a good job. This guy comes highly recommended. There's a lot of that too.
All right, when we come back, we'll continue talking coaching moves, continue talking college football playoff, all that and more next right here on Jocks. All right, welcome back in. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning, 8:53, Thursday, December 11th, right here on Jocks. If you're trying to get to a new home in Birmingham, Alabama, Gusty Goulas and the Gusty Goulas would like to help you today. Go to gustygoulasgroup.com or call 205 542 1996. When you Google Gusty Goulas Group, you're going to find over 855-star Google reviews. They've served over 3,000 home buyers and sellers in the greater Birmingham area. That's why they're going to know what's coming up. That's why they're going to know what homes are going to hit the market, and they're going to know where the best real estate is in central Alabama. Since 2012, Gusty Goulas Group recognized both nationally and locally as greater Birmingham, Alabama's #1 team in homes sold. So go to gustygoulasgroup.com today, see what they can do for you. Google it or call 205 542 1996 today and start packing. Isaiah Hull joins us in about 35 minutes. We'll talk to him about this Michigan situation, what could be next, where he thinks they may go next. There's a lot to be still uncovered there, and a lot of questions about where things are, how long this had been going on, how long folks inside had known about it. It's a wild situation. It's unfortunate for a lot of different reasons. We'll talk to him about that, but we want to start previewing some of these playoff games. Greg, I think the game that is going to be in College Station is probably the one that most people look at and say has the most intrigue because it has a chance to be the best game, maybe the most overall talent going to be involved in that game. I mean, I just look at a playoff game at Kyle Field, 12th man. That in and of itself is going to be awesome. What Miami's front can do, what A&M's front can do. Two offensive lines that have played great at times, but have had times in which they've slipped a little bit, and two quarterbacks who are very capable but have not been mistake-free this year. So there's a ton of intrigue in this game in the many directions that it feels like it could go.
Oh, it could go a million different directions. Which quarterback do you trust more?
Carson Beck.
But when you take into fact the mobility of Marcel Reed, what if he becomes
mobility? I think as much as it helps him gets him in trouble, because I think when he gets on the run is when he makes some of the poor decisions he does trying to throw the ball.
Which offensive line do you like better?
Slightly Miami, probably.
Which defense?
A&M's group's been really good too, though.
Excellent.
It's just A&M's played so many guys. Sometimes it's hard to know exactly what you're getting because they've rotated so much this year.
Which defensive line do you like better?
Oh, probably A&M.
Both are pretty sporty. It's a wild game. I think it's the best game of week one. I'm not saying it because I'm on it. I'm saying it because I really think the matchup is like heavyweight. I mean, heavy.
Whose running back room do you like more?
Is Le'Veon Moss playing?
Say he is.
Then A&M, but it's not by much.
Yeah, I think the receivers are probably the one
that's
is the easiest to lean. But I mean, it's not like Malachi Tony can't play.
No, he can go.
I mean, so even the teams that have like legitimate advantages at certain positions, it's not by a mile.
No.
So yeah, it's going to be fun to watch. That game's going to be great. Back with more next on Jocks.